It's the first quarter, 10 minutes and 26 seconds on the clock. The Bills have the ball on their own 5-yard line due to an excellent punt by the Bucs' Riley Dixon. The Bills are in 11 personnel, 1 running back, 1 tight end, and 3 receivers, which they often like to be in, with Allen in shotgun and James Cook standing right next to him. The defense is in what we call an over front, which means they identify the strength side of the offense's formation, usually the side with the tight end, and they put a defensive tackle in the B gap and one in the weak side A gap. The defense is also showing single high safety, a possible cover 3 look, but the Bills aren't sure and they want to confirm. So Allen motions his Z receiver, Curtis Samuel, to do a yo-yo motion where he runs into the offensive line and then pivots and returns to where he started. Interestingly, the cornerback, who is lined up directly in front of him, does not follow him as he's doing that motion, but the nickel corner, who's lined up on the inside, does, suggesting that this is likely a man match coverage. Here's what that means. When a receiver motions and a defender follows him with that motion, it suggests that the defense is playing some sort of man coverage principle. Otherwise, he's likely just going to stand in spot while that receiver moves on his own. But the fact that the motion defender wasn't this cornerback lined up directly in front of the Z receiver as he motioned is what tells the offense it's likely man match. This is where the defensive backs play man coverage, but based on where routes break instead of being locked into a specific receiver assignment. So this cornerback is likely expected to initially look at the outermost receiver, who they're calling receiver number 1. This nickel corner is looking at receiver number 2. As this motion happens and the Z moves inside, this slot receiver now becomes number 1 and is the first responsibility of the outer cornerback. So their match assignments switch between these two defensive backs. That's why this nickel corner moves with the motion. In seeing this, Josh Allen feels confident with what he expects the defense to do post-snap. And so he motions his Z receiver again to do a shorter yo-yo, comes immediately back, and then snaps the ball. The purpose of this second yo-yo is to try and confuse the defenders into mixing up their match assignments, even if for only a moment, to create separation for the Z receiver or any of the receivers. If he's motioning out here, and that changes the match assignment for this nickel corner, but then he quickly comes back and the ball is snapped, these two defensive backs might momentarily mix up who is responsible for who, giving this receiver an extra half step and an opportunity for Allen to make an easy completion. And this is great news because Josh Allen has 2 great man coverage routes queued up with a third possible deep shot. The Z receiver is running this hitch route. The F and X receivers are both running slants, where they take about 2 steps straight up the field, plant their foot hard, and cut 45 degrees toward the center of the field. And the Y receiver or tight end is running this kind of seam fade route. And Cook is also running this flat route out of the backfield for a check down if needed. These 2 slant routes tend to be good against man coverage because the receivers are moving horizontally across the field. They make a quick break after 2 steps. It's a really difficult route for cornerbacks to protect against. And if there happens to be a coverage bust and this tight end gets behind the strong safety, there's a possibility for a large completion, maybe even a touchdown. So the offensive line gets settled in and they take a look at the defensive front. They see that there's 4 defensive linemen on the line of scrimmage and 2 linebackers behind them in the box. While Curtis Samuel is yo-yoing, the Bills' left guard, David Edwards, starts pointing to this linebacker over here on the left, Servacha Dennis. He sees something his teammates don't, and he's trying to get them to ID him as the Mike and slide their line protection to the left side. But it appears as if the Bills have ID'd the other linebacker, Levante David, as the Mike instead, sliding their protection to the right. What this means is that the offensive line is now responsible for blocking the 4 defensive linemen and the ID'd Mike linebacker. And because he is on the right side of this formation, the right side of the offensive line is going to shift their protection so it favors the right side. They're now responsible for blocking the gap to their right. So this right tackle will block this defensive end. The right guard will block this defensive tackle. Because this linebacker is now in this protection, what's going to happen likely is this left guard and center are going to combo block this defensive tackle. And then whichever one has him secured, the other one is going to peel off, go up to that second layer and block that Mike linebacker. And then the left tackle is on his own, down blocking this defensive end. So they're guessing and hoping that this other linebacker, who they haven't ID'd, is not blitzing. Now, of course, it's impossible for the offense to perfectly predict who's blitzing every time, but as long as they're all communicating well and on the same page, the quarterback should know that if there is a free runner, it's going to be coming from this person right here. So he needs to keep an eye out for him. It simplifies his read to just that one man. Had they listened to their left guard and correctly ID'd Dennis as the Mike, they almost certainly would have picked up the blitz that was coming. Because what happened is this defensive end tries to run outside to play this kind of contain, pulling the left tackle to the left. The left guard and center, they're responsible for blocking this defensive tackle, so that's what they do, leaving a wide open B gap for Dennis to come blitzing through, completely unblocked. Remember, Cook is out here running this flat route, so he's heading straight toward Allen, who is inside the 5-yard line and under immense pressure. Allen is unable to spot this quickly, ends up nearly taking a sack, panics, and does a little shuffle pass right across the middle, hoping to hit one of his receivers, and it ends up getting picked off. Under normal circumstances, Allen might have taken a sack, but because he was risking taking a safety, there's an argument that it was a bit of a safer play to actually force a ball out there and throw a pick. But in all likelihood, he should have recognized that this was the free blitzer who was not being picked up by his protection. He should have recognized his pressure coming immediately and tried to scramble forward for even just a 0-yard gain or something like that. Had they listened to their left guard and ID'd this as their Mike, the blocking protection might have shifted to the left and looked something like this. The left tackle would have blocked the defensive end. The center and the left guard would have combo blocked this defensive tackle still, except the left guard would now peel off and block this blitzing linebacker. The right guard is responsible for whoever's in his left gap here. Because there is nobody, he likely would have down blocked this defensive tackle, and this right tackle probably would have just down blocked this defensive end here. All of the blockers would have been picked up. Allen would have had more time to hit what was an open receiver right across the middle. As a matter of fact, he was so open that the only guy he had to beat was this free safety, and he had a little bit of space, could have made a quick move on him, and had an opportunity at a huge touchdown. It's 1st and 10 on the Arizona 30-yard line, and the 49ers have the ball. They come out in 21 personnel with 2 running backs and 1 tight end. I have receiver written here, but this is actually a running back. It's actually their fullback, Kyle Juszczyk, who's considered a running back in this personnel package. The 49ers use 21 personnel about 34% of their plays, compared to the league average of about 5%. They use it more than anybody, and it's because of Kyle Juszczyk, who's a very versatile fullback. It's early in the game, but the 49ers have already scored a 1-play touchdown on the opening drive and have quickly gotten the ball back with a chance to go up 2 scores early. They're only a few plays into this drive, and they've noticed that the Cardinals are playing a lot of cover 3 on early downs. Notice the single high safety and the cornerbacks who are playing off coverage, off the line of scrimmage. Why would the Cardinals be playing cover 3? It's because cover 3 allows them to bring one of their safeties down into the box or near the box to protect against the run. Christian McCaffrey, one of the league's elite running backs, is an obvious threat, and he scored the game's first touchdown. So if this safety is moved down closer to the line of scrimmage, it gives them a better opportunity to stop the run. But like the Bucs that we just saw, the Cardinals seem to like playing cover 3 with man-match principles. What that means is in a static cover 3 formation, we've got 3 deep defenders playing a third of the field. If a receiver were to come near this coverage and then cut in on like a dig route, this cornerback might not follow him because he's just worried about covering this part of the field. But with man-match principles, if this receiver enters his zone of responsibility, he might have a coverage rule where he now plays man coverage against him and follows him across the field. That's what the Cardinals are doing here. And the 49ers know this because a few plays ago, Juwan Jennings was lined up against a cover 3 look just like this, and with the outside cornerback lined up in front of him about 8 yards, just like we're seeing here, he ran a deep crossing route, something like this. Right after the snap, the cornerback started to backpedal as if he was playing his deep coverage, noticed that this receiver was now his responsibility, and started to play his man-match coverage and started to run across the field with him instead of staying in this deep third. With this intel, the 49ers now have an expectation of what the Cardinals might be playing, and they draw up a play to take advantage of this. The play looks something like this. Our X receiver plays this hitch route. The F receiver plays a slant. The Z receiver does a hitch route as well, but it's a bit of a deeper hitch route. It's about 8 to 10 yards deep. Christian McCaffrey does a wheel route like this. He's our H. And then Y, our tight end, George Kittle, runs this deep fade over to the corner here. And the defense, with their cover 3 man match responsibility, has this free safety playing a deep third here. Each of these corners is playing a deep third, but post snap, they become man assigned to their respective receivers on the perimeter. So he ends up staying down here. And on the Z side, he starts to backpedal deep, but then once he notices this hitch route, he kind of sits low in this intermediate zone here, creating a big vulnerability in that deep third of the field. Now, this linebacker, also in man match responsibility, is likely playing a zone right here, but because of these coverage rules, he knows that his outer cornerback is manned up against this Z receiver, so he's going to stay with this tight end. So initially, he kind of hesitates and pauses, and then he ends up running with Kittle. But Kittle has momentum, and he's pretty fast, and he's pretty big too. He gets a step and is beating this linebacker deep. Now, the free safety eventually notices this and starts to run over to that side of the field, but it's too late. Purdy has already seen this, has thrown a deep ball over Kittle's shoulder, and it's a big touchdown. Now, this free safety almost gets there on time as he's running over, but Purdy does something really smart here. He freezes him with his eyes. So immediately after the ball is snapped, Purdy's not even looking to the right side of the field. He knows what Kittle's doing, but he's looking over to the left here, which is keeping this free safety kind of centralized in the middle of the field. That's buying time for Kittle to get downfield and far enough away from that free safety so that even once he notices that pass going to Kittle, he doesn't have enough time to get there. And Purdy times this perfectly because it holds the safety just in spot for long enough that Kittle's open for a touchdown. Jags versus the Chargers. The Jags have the ball. It's the third quarter with 7 minutes and 53 seconds left. It's first and goal on the 1 yard line. The Jags come out in 11 personnel, 1 running back, 1 tight end, 3 receivers. The Chargers come out in a 4-2-5 nickel personnel, which isn't all that uncommon against 11 personnel. All that means is that they're replacing a linebacker with a nickel corner who's better to protect against the pass. That's because there's more passing threats on the field with 1, 2, 3 receivers, and also this tight end who's a passing threat as well. However, it's a bit surprising to me considering how big of a threat the run is on the 1 yard line, especially on first down when the offense has, probably 3, maybe 4 attempts at it. The Jags line up in a tight right formation with 3 receivers lined up in close proximity to where the ball is. Nobody's out on the wide right. The running back Tuden is lined up in the shotgun next to Lawrence and immediately motions out to the wide left X position. It's looking like the Jags might pass after all. And maybe the Chargers have done their homework and they know what the Jags are up to. This formation and this motion caused the Chargers to spread wide across the field. This linebacker follows that running back out to the wide left, and we've got some other secondary defenders stacked on the right. However, the big vulnerability for the Chargers defense is this light box. We define the box as the defensive linemen, which we've got 4 of in this case, and anyone lined up within 5 yards directly behind them. So we'd probably consider this free safety to be in the box as well. That's 5 defenders. 7 is considered a standard box. It's pretty balanced against both the pass and run. The more players that you have lined up in this box area, it equips the defense to protect against the run more because you've got players that can fit into these run gaps more quickly. As you start to reduce the number of players in the box, your defense becomes more vulnerable to the run. So a 5-man box is incredibly weak against running plays. However, the Jags don't have any running backs in the backfield. They just have Trevor Lawrence, who's lined up in the shotgun. What happens next is their tight end motions across the field, and once he reaches the middle of the line, Lawrence snaps the ball. It's a quarterback draw. The tight end continues to the left side of the line and picks up a block on this unblocked linebacker. The left side of our line picks up solo blocks with our center double teaming with the right guard against this defensive tackle. This is the key block that creates a big gap right in this A-hole where the quarterback runs completely free, uncontested, untouched right into the end zone. It appeared as if the Chargers were completely unprepared and they left a big vulnerability for an easy run game. To the Jags' credit, it was a smart play call that sold the idea of a believable pass. Why? Well, first of all, they came out in 11 personnel, which, if you had multiple running backs or multiple tight ends, that's a higher indicator that you're going to run the ball. Being lined up in this shotgun position with no running backs in the backfield and having your receivers lined up spread across the field. These are all things that are telling the defense that it's more likely to be a pass. This is a strategy from the Jags that created or forced the defense to create this light box and creating a big opportunity for Trevor Lawrence, who's not typically known as a running quarterback. The Texans have the ball. It's the third quarter. They're second and goal on the 4-yard line, down by 6 points to the Titans. The Titans bring 6 guys to the line of scrimmage, with a free safety and a linebacker right behind them. 7 defenders in the box. Pretty balanced against pass and run. In the event of a pass, they're prepared with what looks like a pretty standard cover 2 zone coverage, which looks like this. Our cornerbacks are both playing flat zone coverages. Our nickel corner is playing a deep half. Our strong safety is playing the other deep half. And then we have some intermediate zones across the middle, like this. With there being little vertical space in the red zone, we're just on the 4-yard line. This coverage takes a lot of space, and it makes it very difficult for the offense to find any holes. But the Texans have called an excellent play of their own. The Z receiver motions inward and runs this out route just inside the end zone. Our X receiver runs this kind of deep out. Our running back runs this kind of sit route. And importantly, our F receiver, Nico Collins, runs this deep over to the back of the end zone like this. It's a play action play. Davis Mills snaps the ball, does a fake handoff to the running back, and then turns back to face the field. The free safety feels Nico Collins running behind him, but he trusts that his strong safety, who is responsible for this deep half, is going to pick up that coverage. And the running back, after giving a fake handoff, is running into this area just short of the end zone, right on the goal line, in front of this free safety, challenging his zone coverage. Everything looks pretty good for the defense so far. However, this Z receiver runs his out route just deep enough to catch the attention of this strong safety, who thinks that he's going to be playing in the deep right sideline part of the field. So he starts to move with him towards the sideline, which as a result creates an open gap at the back of the end zone for Nico Collins, which Davis Mills finds for a pretty easy touchdown. So the brilliance of this play call is this 3-route combination from the offense, which stressed the zone coverages just enough to create space. However, in a best case scenario, I think the defense should have covered this play. And there's 3 players who I think made a mistake. The strong safety should have passed off this Z receiver a little bit sooner to his flat cornerback, who was in good position to protect against this out route. The out route wasn't a very deep route. It was just kind of inside the goal line a little bit. So of course, the strong safety felt that pressure, felt the need to cover it, but he was kind of abandoning his deep responsibility in the deep half. That was his mistake. But I also think the Z receiver in that case shouldn't have run such a shallow out route. He should have tried to kind of play it a little bit deeper, more like a corner route, which would have absolutely guaranteed that this strong safety would have followed him, or had the strong safety picked up on Nico Collins over here, then that Z receiver might have an open chance in the deep corner of the end zone. And lastly, the free safety, who didn't play deep enough to cover the Nico Collins route. He did kind of like hover toward the back of the field and completely left open this vulnerability for the running back beneath him. So he should have kind of stuck to his responsibility, jumped down to protect against that run, because had David Mills not found Nico Collins in the back of the end zone, this sit route would have been wide open for an easy touchdown as well. Either way, an excellent play call and great execution.